A faint gasp rippled through the room. Courtney's smile faltered, her fingers tightening around Luca's arm. Scarlet's words had been too calm, too poised, the kind of calm that carried power. Luca shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. He looked from Scarlet to Philip, who sat slumped in his chair, the faint sound of a cough breaking the silence. "I'm glad you found someone greater," Courtney said at last, her tone brittle. "But let's not make this about the past. Today is about family, and father's wishes." Scarlet gave a polite nod, though her jaw tensed. She could feel Caleb's voice echoing faintly in her head, "Don't let them pull you down. You owe them nothing." The lawyer cleared his throat. "Mr. Barnes has decided to allocate his estate between his two daughters equally, with certain clauses regarding management rights. However," he hesitated, glancing at Luca, "the control of the company's major shares will temporarily pass under the oversight of Luca's firm until both heirs settle ongoing disputes." Scarlet's brows drew together. "I'm sorry, what?" Luca's lips curved in that familiar, smug smile she'd once mistaken for charm. "It's purely procedural," he said, spreading his hands. "Your father trusts me. I'm here to ensure a smooth transition." Scarlet rose from her seat slowly. "You mean you're here to take control, again?" Courtney's tone sharpened. "Scarlet, don't start. Luca has been nothing but loyal to this family." "Loyal?" Scarlet repeated, her voice trembling slightly. "You mean to you?" The air grew thick. Cindy shot to her feet. "Enough. This is not the time for arguments. Scarlet, sit down." But Scarlet didn't. Her eyes were bright, and her voice steady now. "No, Mother. I'll stand." She faced Philip again, softer this time. "Father, if this is truly your wish, I'll honor it. But if you were pressured—" "Scarlet," Philip's voice was weak, yet there was something pleading in it. "Please, don't make this harder." Her heart sank. The way he said it, tired, uncertain, told her everything. Someone had influenced him. And she had a terrible guess who. Aurora stepped forward quietly with a tray of tea, her gaze flicking between Scarlet and Courtney. But her hands trembled as she set the cups down. "Miss Scarlet," she whispered under her breath. "Not here, not now." Scarlet's pulse raced. She forced a small nod, taking her seat again. But inside, a decision was forming, clear, dangerous, unstoppable. If Luca was embedding himself deeper into her family's affairs, she'd have to fight smarter. And Caleb, her Caleb, would be the weapon they never saw coming. Her phone buzzed just then. A message from Caleb. "Everything okay, kitten? You don't have to do this alone." Scarlet exhaled softly, hiding her smile behind her hand. "No," she whispered under her breath. "Not anymore." Scarlet's phone rested in her lap, screen dimmed, but Caleb's words lingered like a heartbeat inside her. "You don't have to do this alone." She straightened in her seat as Luca began explaining the transitional process, his voice dripping with professionalism that didn't fool her anymore. The lawyer, James, nodded along while flipping through a stack of documents, each page a nail in the coffin of what was once her family's empire. "Of course," Luca said, smiling thinly, "both daughters will retain beneficiary rights, but all executive decisions will pass through my firm until—" "Until what?" Scarlet interrupted sharply. Courtney's eyes flashed. "Scarlet, don't embarrass yourself. It's for your protection too." "No, Courtney. It's for your protection." Scarlet's tone cut through the air, clean and cold. "You've always been good at hiding behind others. Father, mother, now Luca." "Watch your mouth," Cindy snapped, voice trembling with suppressed rage. "You come back after a year and think you can accuse everyone of conspiracy. Shame on you." Scarlet leaned back, exhaling through her nose. "If shame built this family, I'd be the foundation." The silence that followed was brutal. Even Luca's smirk faltered. Philip coughed again, a rough, dry sound that drew everyone's attention. His frail hands gripped the armrests. "Enough," he rasped. "This family must hold together." Scarlet's chest tightened. She wanted to reach him, to comfort him, but something in Cindy's cold stare warned her not to. Aurora quickly stepped in, helping Philip sip his tea. "Sir, please, your medicine." Philip waved her off, then looked toward Scarlet. "I wish things were different, child." Scarlet swallowed hard. "So do I, father." Luca cleared his throat, breaking the fragile moment. "Perhaps we should conclude for today. Mr. Barnes needs rest. Cindy nodded, rising to usher everyone out. Courtney, please walk Luca to the car. Scarlet, we'll talk later. Scarlet rose too, her composure slipping just enough for her hands to tremble. She turned toward Aurora, who gave a subtle nod toward the back corridor, the one leading to her father's private study. In the study. Minutes later, Scarlet quietly pushed open the study door. The air inside was thick with dust and faint cologne, the scent of the man who'd once lifted her on his shoulders and called her his little firebrand. Now, he looked like a shadow of that man, hunched over the desk, his eyes hollow. "Father," she said softly, closing the door behind her. He didn't look up. "You shouldn't be here." "I needed to know," Scarlet said, stepping closer. "Did Luca make you sign those papers?" Philip hesitated. His silence was louder than words. Scarlet's heart broke. "He's using you, Father. He doesn't care about this family." "I'm tired, Scarlet," he whispered. "Too tired to fight anyone anymore." "You don't have to," she said, voice trembling but fierce. "I will." Philip finally looked at her, and for the first time in years, his eyes softened. "You sound like your mother when she still loved me." Tears pricked Scarlet's eyes. "Then maybe I'm what's left of that love." Before he could answer, a soft knock came at the door. Aurora slipped in, glancing nervously down the hall. "They're leaving," she whispered. "But listen carefully, I found something." From the folds of her apron, Aurora pulled a small flash drive. Scarlet frowned. "What's that?" Aurora's gaze darted toward the door again. "Documents. Luca's. He left his laptop open last night when he met with Mrs. Barnes. There were emails from overseas accounts, transfers, plans for the company's assets. It's proof." Scarlet's pulse quickened. "Aurora, this could ruin him." Aurora's voice lowered to a tremor. "Be careful, child. They'll do anything to protect their secrets. Especially Courtney." Scarlet reached for the flash drive, her hand brushing Aurora's. "Thank you. I promise, I'll make this right." Later that night, Scarlet sat in her car, engine off, the Barnes mansion's lights glowing dim behind her. Her reflection in the windshield looked older somehow, stronger, colder. She pulled out her phone and typed quickly. "Scarlet, found something. Luca's been laundering money through the company." "Caleb, you're sure?" "Scarlet, Aurora gave me proof. I need to check what's inside." "Caleb, don't do it alone. Bring it to me. I'll have our IT team go through it." "Scarlet, you trust them?" "Caleb, I trust you. The rest, I'll handle." Her chest warmed despite the fear crawling under her skin. She pressed send and leaned back, exhaling. For the first time in years, she didn't feel helpless. She felt dangerous. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, Courtney stood by the window of her bedroom, watching Scarlet's car disappear down the drive. Her smile was gone, replaced by something darker, almost predatory. Luca entered quietly behind her, removing his tie. "She's not going to let this go." "I know," Courtney said, her reflection cold in the glass. "She thinks she can fight me. But Scarlet always plays with her heart, not her head." Luca moved closer, resting his hands on her waist. "Then we make sure she doesn't get the chance." Courtney turned, her eyes glittering. "Exactly. Let her dig her own grave." Scarlet had no idea that even as she drove toward Caleb's penthouse, clutching the flash drive like a key to freedom, she was already being followed. A black SUV slid out from the shadows, headlights off, keeping distance as it trailed her through the quiet Lagos night. And inside, a familiar figure lifted a phone to his ear. "It's done," the man said. "She has the drive." A pause. "Good," Courtney's voice purred through the speaker. "Then let's see how far my sister's bravery takes her before it breaks." The city shimmered under a bruised Lagos sky, skyscrapers reflecting the pulse of night traffic. Scarlet's headlights cut through the drizzle as she pulled into the underground parking of Caleb's penthouse complex. Her fingers tightened around the flash drive, the weight of it pressing against her palm like a heartbeat she couldn't still. She parked, stepped out, and hurried toward the private elevator. The moment the doors closed, she exhaled, her shoulders sinking with exhaustion. "You're safe now," she told herself, though she didn't quite believe it. When the doors slid open again, Caleb was waiting in the doorway of his living room, barefoot, dressed in a dark grey shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. The look in his eyes, though, wasn't casual. It was sharp, concerned. Scarlet. His voice was low, grounding. He closed the distance in 3 strides, his hands resting briefly on her shoulders before sliding down to her elbows. You shouldn't have gone there alone. I had to, she whispered. You were right. They're hiding something big. He took the flash drive from her, his thumb brushing hers. Let's find out. In Caleb's study. The room was sleek, all glass and steel, city lights bleeding through the tall windows. Scarlet sat on the couch, watching Caleb connect the drive to his computer. Lines of code and encrypted files filled the screen. It's locked, he murmured, leaning closer. Luca's not stupid. He buried this under multiple firewalls. I don't care how deep he buried it, Scarlet said, her voice firm. Dig him up. A faint smirk curved Caleb's mouth. I like when you talk like that. He started typing faster, muttering to himself as he ran decryption protocols. Scarlet watched his concentration, the furrow in his brow, the way his jaw flexed. Minutes passed, the only sound the soft hum of the city outside. Then, a chime. Caleb leaned forward. Got it. The files opened, a cascade of financial statements, transfer logs, and offshore accounts. Names of shell companies, foreign transactions, and beneath them all, the unmistakable name, Barnes Holdings. Scarlet stood behind him, her hand over her mouth. He's been bleeding the company dry. Caleb nodded grimly. And your father's illness, some of these payments went to private labs. Experimental clinics. None of them real. Her eyes widened. You mean? He's funding something under your father's name, Caleb finished. And Courtney's signed off on most of it. Scarlet stumbled back, her knees weak. So this whole thing, the will, the company, everything, it's all part of their cover. Caleb turned in his chair, reaching for her hand. Hey, look at me. She did, her breath shaky. We'll expose them, he said. But not recklessly. You go head on, they'll destroy you before you get close. Scarlet clenched her fists. Then we outsmart them. Caleb's smile was small, but fierce. That's my girl. An hour later, Scarlet sat by the window, watching raindrops streak down the glass while Caleb made a few quiet phone calls. His tone was measured, businesslike, but his eyes kept flicking to her, checking if she was all right. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. You should have stayed gone, Scarlet. She froze. Unknown number. You think Caleb can protect you? His next. Scarlet's heart lurched. Caleb. He ended his call instantly and was by her side in seconds. What happened? She showed him the screen. His jaw tightened. They're already watching. He took her phone, deleting the thread and switching it off. No more phones tonight. We go dark. Scarlet stared at him. They're serious, aren't they? Yes, he said quietly. But so am I. Midnight. Later, when the tension finally eased enough for words, Scarlet sat cross-legged on his bed, the flash drive between them. What if they did something to my father? She whispered. He looked broken. Not sick. Controlled. Caleb looked at her thoughtfully. You think they're drugging him? I don't know, she said. But I saw fear in his eyes. He wasn't the man I remember. Caleb leaned closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Then we'll find out. I'll have one of my men check on him tomorrow. Quietly. Scarlet nodded slowly. And Courtney? He hesitated, his tone darkening. Courtney's not just complicit. She's orchestrating it. Her and Luca both. Scarlet bit her lip, anger flashing through her. Then I'll be the one to end her games. Caleb smirked faintly. Now that's the Scarlet I fell for. She smiled weakly, but her heart was racing. She had no idea how deep the trap went, only that there was no turning back now. Outside, thunder rolled across the city. Elsewhere, Courtney's penthouse. Courtney stood before a mirror, brushing her hair as Luca paced behind her. She's with him now, he said. You know what that means. Courtney smiled at her reflection. Yes. It means she's predictable. Emotional. If she has the flash drive, she'll run straight to Caleb. And Caleb can't resist saving her. Luca frowned. You sound almost pleased. Oh, I am. Courtney set her brush down and turned to face him. Because while she's busy playing detective, we'll take the company public. Once the merger is signed, no one, not even Scarlet, will be able to stop it. Luca crossed his arms. And the files? I let Aurora see them, she said simply. She took the bait. He blinked. You wanted Scarlet to find that drive. Courtney's lips curved into a smile sharp enough to cut glass. Of course. Now she's walking into our trap, and Caleb will walk right into it with her. Back at Caleb's penthouse. Scarlet had finally drifted into uneasy sleep, her head resting on Caleb's chest, the storm outside softening into rain. But Caleb's eyes were open, fixed on the ceiling. The message still replayed in his mind, his next. He reached for his phone, turned the screen away from her, and opened a secure app. Caleb, keep eyes on her building. If anyone moves near my car, shoot to scare, not to kill. He paused, then added another message. Caleb, and find out who's pulling Luca's strings. The money trail doesn't end with him. He set the phone down and exhaled, wrapping an arm tighter around Scarlet. I've got you, he murmured softly, more to himself than her. They won't touch you. Not while I'm breathing. But far below, in the dark streets of Lagos, a figure stepped out of the rain, phone to his ear, his face hidden beneath a hood. She's with him, the man said quietly. Good, a woman's voice replied, smooth, venomous. Then it's time to burn everything she loves. Dawn bled pale over Lagos, turning the city's glass facades into sheets of silver. Caleb pushed open the front door to the Barnes mansion with a key he'd copied the night before. He moved like a man who had rehearsed every angle, measured, quiet, while Scarlet shadowed him, every nerve on edge. Remember, Caleb murmured, we go in calm. No dramatic accusations in front of staff. We find proof, we leave. No heroics. Scarlet nodded, but her mouth was a hard line. If they've hurt him, they won't get away with it. Caleb's fingers brushed her wrist. Not on my watch. Malik, Caleb's senior operative, waited in the car, flanked by two plainclothes men. He was a big, steel-quiet presence who'd earned Caleb's trust over the years. He handed Caleb an earpiece. I'll keep the perimeter. If anything moves, I call. They split, Caleb and Scarlet through the front, Malik to sweep the back and the alleyways. The mansion hummed with servants moving about, the house show perfect as always. Aurora met them at the study threshold, pallid and shaking. Miss Scarlet, she said in a whisper. He slept most of the night. When I woke him, he's not the same. Scarlet's steps felt heavy as she followed Aurora to Philip's room. The man in the bed looked smaller than the hospital photos. His skin was sallow, cheeks hollow, eyes open but vacant. A faint line of sweat traced his temple. Dr. Ease is here, Aurora said. He came early. I told him you were coming. She held out a small paper bag. He left these after the tests. Caleb opened the bag while Gabriel, the doctor, prodded the four. Inside, a tiny vial, a clear label worn down by time and fingerprints. Caleb's throat tightened when he read the chemical name on the paper slip. A sedative derivative used in controlled trials, not the sort of medication ordinarily given for chronic illness. Who ordered these tests? Caleb asked. Aurora's eyes darted to the hallway. Courtney did. She was insistent. Scarlet's stomach clenched. Courtney asked for tests and then signed off on transfers. It fits. Her hand went to her mouth. But why hide it under father's name? Why pretend to spend on clinics? Because if you can label a man as sick, you make his decisions a matter of wellness and care, Caleb said. A willing son will sign anything if you tell him it's for his father. They had barely begun to breathe when the house sounded different, as though someone had flipped a switch. Footsteps quickened in the hall. Voices, raised, then a scream, Aurora's voice, frayed and high. Caleb snapped his head toward the sound. Malik, he hissed into the earpiece. Static. Then, Malik's voice, breathless, they're moving behind the west wall. Someone's dragged Aurora, two men. I see a shadow by the servant quarters. I'm moving in. Do it, Caleb said. He went to the door, then stopped and looked at Philip. The man's labored breathing had slowed. Scarlet leaned in, touching his wrist. It was weak but there. Footsteps thundered down the corridor. Luca strode in first, suit immaculate, that practiced smile carved across his face, but now his eyes were cold and steady. Behind him Connor and two others from his firm filled the doorway like wolves. Caleb, Luca said, slow, almost pleased. You are a persistent one. Caleb's jaw tightened. You've had her followed. And you've had my firm hacked. Luca smiled in that thin way that used to fool people. We're even. Courtney came next, composed as ever, hair perfect, eyes calculating. Oh, Scar, you really think you could expose us without consequences? She stepped closer to the bed, staring at Philip with an odd tenderness that didn't reach her eyes. He's been so brave through all this. Scarlet felt heat crawl up her spine. Where is Aurora? She demanded. Luca gestured. She's safe. We just needed to have a quiet word. His tone implied the opposite. Before anyone could move, the lights cut. The study plunged into a blackout so complete Scarlet could only see the shine of the window and the pale outline of Philip. Shouts echoed through the house. Men moved fast, too fast. Caleb's hand slammed into the wall, fingers finding a recessed panel. A hidden lock clicked and a metal curtain over the windows clanged down, barely enough light filtering through to show the forms of men, mask-covered, fast. Malik's voice came in a whisper, strained. They're cutting comms. I'm pinned at the rear. 2 of mine down, not critical but bleeding. Caleb's world condensed to a single point. Get Scarlet out. He lunged for her, but a heavy hand yanked him back. One of Luca's associates, Daniel, had stepped in front with a gun pressed to Caleb's ribs. A second man held Scarlet by the elbow, rough and efficient. Easy, Luca said. We don't want blood in the wrong places. He walked to Caleb, close enough that their jackets brushed. But you should know, you sticking your nose in will make this very messy, for everyone. Caleb's earpiece was dead. He tried to reach for his phone, snatched away. Luca was too quick. You set this up, Courtney said, leaning close to Scarlet, voice like sugar over ice. You wanted to be a hero. How noble. Scarlet's voice was small but steady. You're going to pay for this. For father. For Aurora. For everything. Courtney smiled as though Scarlet had told a joke. Sweetheart, we already paid. You will not be the one to bring us down. Not now. They herded them, Caleb, Scarlet, Aurora, and the doc, toward the main hall. Outside, sedan doors opened and shut in the dim light. Malik's whisper had turned into a shout and then an abrupt silence. The mansion darted with movement, purposeful and cold. As they stepped into the hall, a projector flicked to life at the far end of the room, an old trick Scarlet remembered from the family gatherings. A feed popped onto the screen, security camera footage, grainy, from the study last night. It showed Scarlet at the door, moving quickly. The angle jumped to the house gate, to the driver's exit, then to a brief, doctored shot. Scarlet apparently slipping an envelope into her bag, then shoving a flash drive into her pocket, an edit that made it seem like she had stolen documents. The room's breath hitched. This, Luca said widely, is the proof of her treachery. She didn't find anything. She took it. Caleb's face went cold. You doctored your cameras. Luca shrugged. It's called editing. And it's convincing, isn't it? He spread his hands like a man unveiling a masterpiece. Scarlet's chest felt hollow. The footage was crude but believable. The angle, the timing, someone knew how to plant a narrative. Take her, Luca ordered a masked man. We'll handle this the proper way. 2 figures seized Scarlet. One, impossibly, had the faint smell of Caleb's building, the same cologne he favored. There was a brief, confusing stab of betrayal in Caleb's gut. No! Caleb roared, struggling. He reached, but Daniel shoved him aside. A masked hand struck him at the temple. Stars exploded. The room tilted. Scarlet's hands flew to Caleb's face as he staggered. Caleb, she cried, but the world spun and then blinked to black for him. They dragged Scarlet toward the waiting SUV. As she was forced into the back, the collar of her jacket scraped against something metallic on the seat. She glanced and there, under the cushion, the edge of the flash drive peered out, as if slipped loose from her pocket in the scuffle. She tried to grab it, but a gloved hand jabbed her in the side, spinning her back into the vehicle. From the front seat, Courtney's voice was calm as a surgeon. Hand him the key to the company, Luca. We close the merger today. We make it irreversible. The SUV door slammed. The engine roared. As they pulled away, Scarlet leaned her forehead against the glass and saw Caleb through the study windows, slumped on the marble floor, Malik and 2 others tending to him, but Luca standing over him like a general before a conquered city. Caleb's eyes met hers for a fleeting second, fury, hurt, and something else she couldn't name. He mouthed something that the passing sedan swallowed, run. But the car was already gaining speed. The skyline blurred. Scarlet's phone, despite being turned off, vibrated against her ribs as the last thing in her pocket buzzed to life from a hidden app she'd installed just in case. One last automated message to a secure drop she and Caleb had set up weeks ago, a failsafe. The notification scrolled across the dark screen. Drop received. Encrypted file downloaded. Initiate protocol read. Primary contact, Caleb Stone. A thin hope sparked inside Scarlet as the SUV dove into a tunnel, but hope was a fragile thing now, easily broken by steel and the hard certainty of those who'd planned every step. Outside, Courtney's soft laugh drifted back through the open window like cold smoke. Let's see how much he'll risk to get her back. And in the rearview mirror, Caleb's silhouette disappeared behind a mansion as men closed the curtains on his sight. The Lagos skyline burned gold and violet as dawn broke, streaks of early light slicing through the mist rising off the lagoon. Caleb's penthouse windows caught the first rays, filling the room with soft brilliance, but the piece it painted was a lie. Scarlet sat at the edge of the bed, staring out at the city below. Her reflection in the glass looked like a stranger, the kind of woman who'd seen too much and slept too little. Her phone remained off. Her mind, however, refused to stop spinning. Caleb stepped out of the bathroom, hair damp, a towel around his neck. "You didn't sleep," he said quietly. "I couldn't." Her voice was hollow. Courtney was always manipulative, but this? Using my father like a pawn. He sat beside her, setting a gentle hand on her knee. "You said she was the one who handled your father's medical bills, right?" Scarlet nodded. "After his collapse. She told me she found the best specialists in Geneva." Caleb exhaled slowly. "I ran the names last night. Those clinics don't exist." She turned toward him sharply. "What?" "They're fake entities, fronts for shell transfers. Someone's been using your father's illness to launder money." Scarlet stood, pacing, her heart beat loud in her ears. "Then he's not even getting real treatment." "Caleb, he could be." "Alive," Caleb interrupted. "Barely, maybe. But alive. Which means we still have leverage." She turned to him, confused. "Leverage?" He looked up at her with a calculating glint in his eyes. "Courtney's entire plan hinges on perception, on making you look unstable and me complicit. But if we get proof your father's been kept under false care, her empire collapses overnight." Scarlet crossed her arms. "And how do we get that proof?" Caleb's lips curved slightly. "We make her think she already has it." Later that morning, Caleb's office overlooked Eco-Atlantic, gleaming glass, black marble, and quiet menace. His team worked silently at their terminals as he and Scarlet stood at the head of the floor. "Are you sure your people can handle this?" she asked under her breath. He smiled faintly. "They used to build firewalls for the state ministry before I bought them out. Trust me, sweetheart, they can hack through God if they have to." Scarlet's lips twitched despite herself. "That's not reassuring." Caleb looked at her for a moment, longer than he meant to. "Neither is this situation." On the large monitor before them, lines of data streamed upward, encrypted files being cloned, corrupted, and rewritten simultaneously. A digital ghost of Scarlet's flash drive was being constructed. "This," Caleb said, pointing, "is the bait. Courtney's been tracing the original drive since last night. Once she thinks she's located it, she'll send someone." Scarlet frowned. "To steal it?" "To kill for it," he corrected softly. Scarlet's throat tightened. "And you're using me as bait?" Caleb looked at her evenly. "No. I'm using myself." She blinked. "What do you mean?" "I'll leak a trace from my servers, make it look like I made a copy of the files and hid them off-site. They'll come for me, thinking I'm the only threat left." Scarlet shook her head. "No. You're not doing that." "Scarlet." "No," she snapped, eyes burning. "I'm not watching another person I care about get destroyed because of them." Caleb's expression softened. He stepped closer, brushing his thumb gently under her chin. "You won't have to. You just need to trust me." She met his gaze for a long, trembling moment. Then finally, she whispered, "I do." Meanwhile, Courtney's office. Courtney stood behind her glass desk, sunlight pouring through the floor-to-ceiling windows. She was dressed in ivory silk, poised and immaculate, her expression unreadable as Luca delivered the latest report. "They're moving fast," Luca said. "Caleb's team started digital activity an hour ago, cloning something that looks like the original dataset. My contact in his IT department says it's being rerouted through offshore servers. Courtney smiled faintly. Perfect. Luca frowned. You're okay with that? Oh, I'm counting on it. She turned toward the panoramic view of the city. Caleb always did think he was the smartest man in the room. He'll protect her, risk himself, and when he does, we'll be ready. Luca's tone darkened. You're sure the assassin will cooperate? Courtney's eyes glinted. He's already on his way. Back at Caleb's building, the setup. By late afternoon, the storm clouds gathered again, heavy and grey. Scarlet waited in the security room, eyes fixed on the dozen monitors showing live feeds of the building. Parking lot, lobby, elevators, penthouse hallway. Caleb stood beside her, fastening a small earpiece. Once they enter the lower floor, we'll have about 5 minutes before they reach me. You stay here. No heroics. Scarlet glared at him. You don't get to order me around. Scarlet, this isn't a debate. It never is with you, she muttered. Caleb sighed and placed his hand briefly over hers. Just stay safe. Before she could answer, he was gone, his reflection flickering past the monitor as he disappeared down the corridor. Minutes later, one of the cameras blinked, static slicing across the feed. Scarlet frowned. No, no, no. 3 figures appeared on the parking level. Black tactical gear. Suppressed rifles. Faces hidden. Her pulse spiked. Caleb, they're here. No response. Caleb. Still nothing. Scarlet's heart hammered. Without thinking, she grabbed the handgun from the security drawer and bolted from the room. The penthouse, moments later. The lights were dim. The air thick with silence. Scarlet's shoes echoed softly as she moved down the hall, gun trembling in her hand. Then, a crash. She sprinted toward the sound. Caleb was crouched behind the kitchen island, firing back as 2 intruders advanced from the living room. Glass shattered across the floor, alarms blaring. Scarlet, he shouted, ducking another shot. I told you to stay put. Too late, she yelled back, firing toward one of the attackers. The man fell with a groan. Another grabbed the edge of the counter, lunging forward, but Caleb caught him mid-motion, slamming him hard into the marble. Then, silence. Smoke. The sharp smell of gunpowder. Caleb's breathing was ragged. He turned toward Scarlet, eyes wide with disbelief and fury and something else, relief. You could have been killed, he said hoarsely. So could you, she shot back. They stared at each other, the kind of stare that spoke of adrenaline and fear and things neither dared to say. Then Scarlet's gaze drifted to the fallen man near the wall. His mask had slipped off. Her breath hitched. Oh my God. Caleb followed her eyes, froze. It wasn't just any mercenary. It was Derek, one of Caleb's own men. The realization cut like a blade. He was on my payroll, Caleb muttered. Courtney must have bought him out. Scarlet swallowed hard. Then this isn't over, is it? No, Caleb said darkly, staring at the body. This was just the opening move. Elsewhere, unknown location. Courtney's phone vibrated. Unknown number, target missed. 1 dead. 2 down. Scarlet alive. Courtney's fingers tightened around the glass of wine in her hand. Courtney, that's disappointing. Unknown number, Caleb interfered. Courtney smiled coldly. Courtney, then let him. The more he bleeds for her, the faster he'll fall. She looked out at the city, voice a whisper to herself. Scarlet thinks she's fighting for the truth. She has no idea she's the truth they've been fighting over. Rain lashed the windows like tiny shards of glass. Lagos was drowning under another storm, its streets glittering with water and neon. Inside Caleb's penthouse, the aftermath of the firefight was eerily calm. Broken glass. Spent shells. The faint metallic scent of blood. Scarlet stood over Derek's body, her hands trembling, the gun still heavy in her grip. Her chest rose and fell too quickly. He worked for you, she whispered. He was supposed to protect us. Caleb's jaw was tight. He did, until someone offered him more. Courtney. Caleb didn't answer. He didn't need to. The truth was written in his eyes. He bent, rolling Derek's sleeve back. A tattoo, faint, a serpent biting its tail, coiled around the dead man's wrist. Caleb's expression darkened. Of course, he muttered. Scarlet frowned. You recognize that? It's not just a tattoo, Caleb said quietly. It's a mark. A syndicate called the Ouroboros Group, a black network Courtney's father helped build. They don't just deal in money. They deal in people, information, control. Scarlet's breath caught. And my father. Caleb met her gaze. Was one of them. Until he tried to leave. The words hit like thunder. Scarlet shook her head. No. My father would never. He tried to destroy them, Caleb interrupted gently. And when he failed, they made him vanish in plain sight. The illness, the isolation, the clinic that doesn't exist, all of it was their way of erasing him without killing him. Scarlet backed up, her vision swimming. You're saying my father was part of this? I'm saying he tried to end it, Caleb said softly. And now you're the only piece left of his legacy, the key they couldn't control. The hidden file. Hours later, Caleb's team worked in silence as the storm rolled on. Scarlet sat in his office, scrolling through the decrypted files they'd recovered from the fake drive. Something about the names tugged at her. She paused on one entry. Project Threnody, status, active. Initiator, Philip A. Nwosu. Custodian, Barnes Holdings. Her father's name. Caleb, she called. He crossed the room, reading over her shoulder. Project Threnody. She clicked it open. Dozens of files spilled out. Medical data, genetic codes, hospital logs. What the hell is this? She breathed. Caleb frowned. It's not corporate research. These are human trials. Scarlet scrolled faster. Patient IDs, gene sequences, neurological scans. And then she froze. Subject 01, Scarlet Nwosu. Filed, Lagos, 2011. Her heart stopped. No. Caleb's voice dropped to a whisper. Scarlet. She opened the document. It was a scan, her scan. The same birthmark pattern on her shoulder, labeled and indexed. Her blood type. Her medical records from childhood. Tears stung her eyes. My father, he tested on me. Caleb knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders. No, listen. This isn't what it looks like. Your father wasn't experimenting on you. He was protecting you. She looked at him, shaking. Protecting me from what? Caleb pointed to the bottom of the page. There was a single redacted note. Genome anomaly. Inherited resistance to neuroviral strain. Subject viable for continuation. He exhaled. They were trying to weaponize immunity. You're the only one who survived the trial, the only one immune. Scarlet covered her mouth, her breath shattering. My God, that's why they want me. Caleb nodded slowly. That's why they kept your father alive. His leverage, a guarantee that you won't disappear until they finish what he started. Courtney's war room. On the other side of the city, Courtney watched the same data through her secure network. Her lips curved as she saw Scarlet's face appear on her surveillance feed, shaky, terrified. She found it, she said calmly. Luca stood by the window, uneasy. You really want her to know all that? Courtney's eyes gleamed. Knowledge is the most exquisite poison, Luca. Let her choke on it. The moment she realizes what she is, she'll destroy herself. Luca hesitated. And if she doesn't? Courtney smiled wider. Then we make sure she does. She turned back to the table, where a sleek black case lay open. Inside it, vials of clear serum labeled Threnody Regan 2. Time to finish her father's work, she murmured. Only this time, she won't survive it. Nightfall, Caleb's plan. By the time the rain eased, Caleb had his team scattered across the city, eyes and ears planted in every financial hub and media outlet. Scarlet sat quietly near the window, still processing the truth. Her childhood memories, the hospital visits, the dizziness, the unexplained injections, all made sense now. My whole life was a lie, she said finally. Even the sickness. My father told me it was anemia. He said it wasn't serious. Caleb looked at her, guilt shadowing his face. He was trying to save you from a truth that would have broken you. She turned toward him, fire rekindling in her eyes. Well, it's broken me now. So what's next? He hesitated, then pulled up a digital blueprint on the screen, a medical facility, labeled Barnes Gene Tech, Phase 2 Wing. This is where they're keeping your father, he said. Deep cover. Private island off Lekki. Officially decommissioned, but it's been running quietly for years. Scarlet's pulse raced. Then we go there. Caleb shook his head. Not yet. We need evidence that can't be erased. Otherwise, we'll both vanish before we even reach the shore. I don't care, she snapped. He's my father. Caleb grabbed her wrist, eyes burning. And you're the reason he's still alive. If you die, everything he did, every risk he took, dies with you. For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them was electric, heavy with unsaid things. Then Scarlet whispered, "So what do we do?" Caleb exhaled, his decision final. We bring them out. Every name. Every lie. We burn them in their own light. The broadcast trap. The next morning, Scarlet stood on a rooftop overlooking the city as Caleb's team wired the final uplink. Across town, Courtney prepared for her company's live press conference, the unveiling of the Barnes-Nwosu merger. Once this goes live, Caleb said, handing Scarlet a tablet, the files will stream to every major network, every regulator, every shareholder. They'll have no place to hide. Scarlet stared down at the device, her hand trembling. And Courtney? She'll try to stop the broadcast in person. Caleb's voice was calm, but his eyes were storm-dark. That's when I'll handle her. Scarlet shook her head. No, Caleb. You can't. He touched her cheek gently. If I don't end this, she'll never stop coming for you. Her throat tightened. You sound like you're saying goodbye. He smiled faintly. I'm saying be ready. And then he was gone, disappearing into the grey morning, toward the tower where the merger would take place. Inside Barnes Tower, Courtney's voice was flawless, echoing across the marble atrium. Cameras flashed. Investors smiled. And with this merger, she declared, we move into a future of innovation and healing, a future my late mentor, Philip Nwosu, dreamed of. Scarlet's eyes narrowed from the mezzanine. Late mentor? Her father was still alive.